The biggest event going on right now in the sports world is the FIFA World Cup, where the 16-team knockout stage is about to begin. People around the world are filling out their brackets trying to guess what the outcome will be. I could do the same, but I'd just embarrass myself trying to predict what's going to happen in a sport I'm not too familiar with. So instead, let's imagine that each of these countries has replaced their soccer teams with their national baseball teams. Same countries, same matchup, same format. The only thing I carry over from international baseball is the 10-run mercy rule. I want to try and guess the final scores, and while a soccer match has a clock, baseball does not. And some of these pairings, the teams don't match up well, to put it nicely. So the mercy rule is necessary. Alright, here we go. First we have a really good one between the Netherlands and the USA. This first round matchup of the knockout stage looks like it could be a semifinal match in the WBC. Team Netherlands includes players from their Caribbean possessions of Curaçao and Aruba, so they are loaded with talent. MLB players like Alexander Bogaerts, Ozzy Albies, and Didi Gregorius, NPB star Vladimir Valentin, and players from their own professional league. A great lineup up and down. Unfortunately, they get a bad draw here. The USA team is full of Major League All-Stars, including both MVPs from the 2022 season, and one of the Cy Young winners. The Dutch would certainly put up a good fight, but they're simply overmatched. USA wins 8-2. Then we've got Argentina and Australia. Just a couple months ago, Argentina really introduced themselves to the baseball world with a strong showing at the WBC qualifier. No Major League players from Argentina yet, but they're definitely on their way. Australia is one of the 20 WBC teams. There are a few active Major League players from Australia, like all-star closer Liam Hendriks, and enough players in the minors to fill up the roster. That's more than what Argentina can bring. Though I do think Argentina would make this interesting. They almost knocked off Nicaragua at the qualifier, so I think they'd give the Aussies a scare in this one. Australia wins 7-5. Japan versus Croatia. Many are surprised to see Japan here, but if this were a baseball tournament, it would surprise no one. They've got the 2021 MVP, a former Cy Young candidate, the second best domestic league in the world, and they're two-time WBC champions. Baseball is not widely played in Croatia, but they still manage to be one of the better countries in Europe for baseball. Says a lot about the small group of players they have, but in this matchup they wouldn't stand a chance. Mercy win for Japan, 10-0. Brazil and Korea. Brazil may be the best country not to qualify for the WBC. They came up one win short of qualifying. They've got an active Major League player, a few former big leaguers still actively playing somewhere. Other Brazilians are in the minors or in other professional leagues. Not a bad team. Korea is a WBC team, as they are for every edition. A one-time WBC finalist. They've got a former Cy Young runner-up, a few Major League hitters, and one of the best professional domestic leagues in the world. Brazil would make this one interesting, but Korea would no doubt prevail in the end, by the score of 4-1. Next we have England versus Senegal. The UK team qualified for the next WBC using some players born in England, others with some kind of connection to England. Senegal, meanwhile, doesn't have a national baseball team. There is organized baseball there, mostly played by the youth, and I'm sure they could scrap together a team for this occasion, but it wouldn't be enough to where they could even think of pulling off an upset. England wins 11-1. After that, it's France and Poland. No Major League players from either country. There's only been one player from Poland to ever sign with an MLB organization. That was a few years ago, and he's no longer playing there. France has had a few, but none who've reached the Major League level. France got to participate in the WBC qualifier, but left without a single win. Poland hasn't even made it to a qualifier. France is usually ranked as one of the top 8 countries in Europe. Poland is further down the list. I'll go with France here by the score of 6-2. Spain and Morocco, two countries right next to each other but on different continents. Spain's national baseball team came one win away from qualifying for the WBC a few months ago. They've got a little bit going on domestically and really benefit from players in the Caribbean who are eligible to play for Spain. Morocco, on the other hand, has almost nothing going on. They do have a national baseball team, but it's not good enough to be among the 85 countries that are part of the WBSC rankings. So it looks like the mercy rule goes into effect once again. Spain wins easily, 10-0. Portugal versus Switzerland. Switzerland is ranked 49th in the World Baseball Rankings. They would struggle against any baseball powerhouse. Even against the top 5 countries in Europe, they don't fare well. But they're still ahead of Portugal, which has its own amateur league and a national team, but is absent from the world rankings altogether. They could probably find some dual citizens from North America to give their lineup a boost, but I have to go with Switzerland here. And for some reason, I think it would be a hitter's game. 14-11 the final. Alright, now we've reached the quarterfinals. 8 teams remaining and the best 4 are all on one side of the bracket. USA versus Australia. Last month the Australians faced Japan in a 2-game series, and their bats were silenced by Japan's pitching. Would it be any different against Team USA? Nope. They've got enough talent so they wouldn't look too bad, but USA wins easily, 11-2. Japan and Korea, sure to be the best game of the quarterfinal round. These two countries met in the 2009 WBC final, both ranked in the top 5 of the world rankings. We might get Darvish versus Ryu or Otani versus Kim. Either way, pitching would be fantastic, not to mention all the non-MLB talent each country can bring from their home league. They've gone head-to-head so many times over the years, always a good match. Japan usually comes out on top, and that's why I'm picking them here. Final score 4-2. Now for the other side of the bracket, England versus France. In September's WBC qualifier, Great Britain beat France 14-4 on their way to qualifying. And it wouldn't be much different if it's only players from England competing. I'll say 9-3 for the final this time. Spain versus Switzerland. As I said before, Switzerland doesn't do well against the top 5 countries in Europe, and Spain is one of those countries. Not a blowout, but not so close either. Spain moves on with a 7-2 win. On to the semifinals, and here we have the best matchup of this imaginary tournament. In what could be the real matchup for the WBC final, we have Japan versus USA. If they do meet in the WBC, I might pick Japan since they'll have more of their best players participating, especially among pitchers. But in this World Cup substituted with baseball teams, I'll assume that the very best players from every country are out there, and that would favor USA, which has the better talent overall. A pitcher's game all the way, with the USA scoring more in the end. 3-1 the final. In the other semifinal, England takes on Spain. In the WBC qualifier, Great Britain came from behind to beat Spain by 1 run, and that win qualified Britain for the WBC. For this tournament, though, Spain would have a much more stacked lineup. There are a lot more players that were eligible to play for Spain, but instead chose to represent Venezuela, Dominican Republic, or wherever. This time they wouldn't have those options, and they joined the Spanish team. Spain wins this one, 9-6, to reach the championship game. That leaves us with a World Cup final of USA versus Spain. The USA team would have had a tough road to the final, beating the Netherlands, Australia, and Japan. Sounds like a real baseball tournament, actually. But their final match would be the easiest one. Spain would be maybe the 7th best team in the tournament, but since we're using the same bracket as the soccer tournament, Spain would have a path to the final. And in the final, USA wins 10-1 for the championship. Anyway, that's what I think. Let me know what you think down in the comments. That's all for this one, and until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.